Welcome to our organization. Welcome. You're a leader. 4P360 Leadership. I'm Scott Conway, PhD, JD, and I am the trainer for 4P360 Leadership. 4P360 stands for 4-pillar, 360-degree leadership. We'll get into that a little bit more at the end. But imagine you show up to an organization, they start off, welcome to your organization, of course. Anytime you join an organization, someone's going to welcome you there. Someone's going to start training you to do your job. It starts off, welcome to our organization. We consider you a leader. Now imagine what this does to some brand new person. And it says that you expect me to be a leader, to step up, to be more. Not necessarily to be in charge of people. That may come later, but to take the lead. So welcome to our organization. We consider you a leader. The first thing we will train you for is the job we want you to do. So we will make sure, no matter what your job is, if we've hired you to clean rooms, we will teach you how to clean rooms the way we want the rooms cleaned. If we hire you to be a receptionist, we will teach you how to be a receptionist in the way we want you to be a receptionist. Whatever your job is, we will train you in the way we expect that job to be done. The second thing we will train you for is leadership. With us, leadership begins at the beginning. Now this could be rhetoric in probably any company in the world. They would say it, but they really wouldn't mean it. What they would really be doing is just putting a label on something, calling it that leadership label, but whatever it was might not really be leadership. That as you step up your game, as you rise up to the next level and the next level, as you become eventually a supervisor or gain a managerial position or an executive position, you won't do exactly the same things that they teach you. With 4P360, however, they will. 4P360 leaders make magnificent followers. So if you have someone trained in 4P360 leadership, because of what the pillars are, because of the 7 directions of the 360-degree leadership in the 4P360 system, leaders make magnificent followers. Now there's an old saying that says if you put 50 leaders in a room, nothing's going to get done because they're going to spend the whole time battling for power. If they're 4P360 leaders and they were battling for power, that would be enormously disappointing. If you have a room of 50 4P360 leaders, everything should get done. Because that's what 4P360 leaders do. They get things done. It's not about the power. It's about the responsibilities. It's not about what prestige can I gain. It's about what can we get done. And that is at the core of, hopefully, all leadership, but in particular 4P360 leadership. 4P360 leaders take initiative, and they get things done. 4P360 leaders don't need to be micromanaged because a 4P360 leader knows what their job is, and they actively seek to take things off of the plate of their leader. A good 4P360 leader is a joy to lead. A 4P360 leader makes their boss look good, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. A 4P360 leader will make their boss's job easier. The 4P360 leader, when they are your subordinate, when they are your direct report or someone below your direct report, they make your job easier to do. Even when there's a problem. They don't just show up with a problem, and if they do show up with a problem, they will have the problem adequately defined for you so it can be solved. A good 4P360 leader in a subordinate position not only will show up with the problem defined so it's solvable, but will also show up with possible solutions, the answers that they see to the problem, with their top recommendation. Now imagine you're the boss and someone shows up, yeah, there's a problem over on the second floor. Okay, well, what do you do with that? You have to go to the second floor, try to find out what the problem is. If there even is a problem, or just someone has a problem with normal, figure out what's going on, decide what you need to do about it. On the other hand, suppose someone comes to you and says, this is the problem on the second floor. They define the problem for you. I think we can solve the problem if we do this, this, or this. The easiest one, I think, was that number one that I gave you. And then you can just glance at it, see what the problem is, especially if that person has a track record, and say, all right, go do it. And that's it. So instead of spending a couple of hours trying to hunt down what the problem is and trying to figure out what to do about it and then try to get someone to do it, the 4P360 leader in a subordinate position shows up with the definition of the problem, ready to be solved, some proposed answers ready to be implemented, or is ready to figure out how to implement them depending upon how complex the problem is and how complex the solution is. And all you have to do is pick, and off you go. The answer is going to get done. If it requires a signature, if it requires your authorization, that's all you have to do. Saves you half a day of work. You can continue working whatever project you are working for your leader, for your boss, for the organization, whatever vision you were pursuing, without being pulled out constantly by all of these things you end up having to go investigate on your own, because a trained 4P360 leader, even in an entry-level position, makes their boss's job easier. They make their boss look good. Now, this is not the hypothetical. I have a client that I have been training in 4P360 leadership for some time now. She's been implementing it at her workplace. She came in, she at an entry level, she has no subordinates, and then she got a promotion. Now her promotion is a higher level of pay, a higher level of responsibility. She still doesn't have any direct reports. So in that sense, on the human totem pole, she's still at the bottom of the totem pole in the sense that nobody answers to her. So she's at the bottom of that human ladder and she answers to somebody else. Just recently at a meeting, her direct supervisor stopped and said, you know, I want to tell you something, and I want to tell you this in front of everybody. You make me look good. Thank you. But now that she's been doing the 4P360 style leadership under his authority for some time now, he's begun to realize, and quite likely by talking to other supervisors, talking to other people who have perhaps less competent people on their team, but more likely having people on their team that are followers, not leaders, and he's recognized that this woman makes him look good. Just by way of example, using her 4P360 leader, not only did she get this position by being a leader, by competing head-to-head with someone who had more than a decade more experience than her, but because of the way she takes initiative, because of the way she employs the 4 pillars, that both of the people who are ultimately vying for the position are fairly powerful people. Both of the people vying for the position are pretty practical people. Where they start to differ is in the next 2 pillars. Only one of them was principled. One of them was process, one of them was principled. One of them would fight for territory. One of them was positive, was focused on the outcome, focused on what needs to happen here, and what do I need to do to help make that happen. The other one is, what does someone else need to do? What is my job and what isn't my job? And that was her focus. So even though she had more than a decade more experience than my client got the position. And in that position, made her boss look good. Just by way of example, one story that she told me, that is a particular example of her application of 4P360 leadership in leading up, is that her department was assigned a project. In order to accomplish this project, she would have to collaborate with her boss. Now, normally, of course, it would fall to the boss to take initiative, to make the assignments, but she knew of the assignment. She was there in the meeting when it was given to her boss. And knowing that this was going to have to be done, and knowing that her boss has a problem taking initiative on things like this because he has a lot of things going on. So for him to get this joint project done was going to be yet another thing on his plate. And when he got to it, he got to it, and that was kind of how it was going to be. So what she did, knowing what that was going to be like, she put together not only her side of the project, but some of his side of the project, some ideas and thoughts that she had, defined the problems of the project, defined what she believed to be possible solution sets. She took the initiative to make the appointment with him to fit into his schedule, sat down with everything that she had, showed him, and instead of him having to decide When can I get to this? How much time is it going to take? I don't even know. I'm even going to have to figure out how much time this is going to take. I'm going to have to connect up with her and figure out, okay, what can she do? What do I have to do? And all of that stuff. Instead, in one meeting, this woman walks in and says, all right, here's what we've got. And all he had to do was say, okay, I like that one. Let's go with that one. And then she developed that one further. And then all he had to do then was sign off on some pieces of it, got all the information he needed, and in probably 1/10 of the time he had anticipated it was going to take, they got the project up to that place where now they know exactly what actions they're taking. Now imagine that. It went from a complete unknown to having everything defined and sorted, and instead of him having to figure it out, for him it was a multiple choice. So I picked number C. Let's go with that one. And she got the ball rolling. So by the time he had to actively participate for the part that was his responsibility, that no one but him could do, the whole framework was set up. Everything that she could do in the project was done. And right about then is when he really realized, you make me look good. Because when I show up with this report, it's going to look like I'm on the ball. And I look like I'm on the ball because you're on the ball. And thank you for that. And he was deeply appreciative. Now, think about this. Sooner or later, there's going to be an opportunity for another promotion. Who do you suppose is going to be first in line for consideration for the next promotion that becomes available? Someone who would sit around waiting, or someone who's taking initiative? Someone who's focused on the outcome, or someone who's so bogged down by procedure that they're trying to figure out how much work can I throw away to other people because I don't want to do it. Not because I'm delegating responsibilities, I don't want it. That's going to be her because she's applying the 4P360. How would you like to have someone like that on your team? Well, you can. By training someone like that to be a person like that because they know the 4P360 system. Gallup reports that 78% of people who quit a job are quitting because of the leadership. This is a Gallup poll, 78%. That there's something in the leadership, it might be the direct superior or something in the overall leadership of the company, that they believe is negative, that they don't like, and they're quitting. Sometimes for personal reasons. So another client who has been commended for the way she handles things at work. She just had a peer thank her so very much for the way he trained her. And her simple thing is, well, I just trained you the way I would like to be trained. Essentially, she's applying many of the principles of the 4P360 leadership system with 0 subordinates, doing what we call leading across. So we just talked about, you make me look good, leading up. This one was a leading across, but she's not working there anymore. Why isn't she working there? Well, she liked a lot of the people at work, and she was good at the job when it came to the actual tasks. The problem was the leader. The leader was a persistent pain. The leader ultimately was the reason she didn't want to come back. But she just defined generically as personal reasons. So now think about this. You have a capable person. You have someone that's well-liked by her peers. You have someone who's very good at her job. You have someone who gets all of her tasks completed. You have someone who hits the numbers, hits the goals, gets it done, who just really, honestly, just doesn't like the leader. She's part of that 78% of people quitting a job because of the leadership. Now imagine this. Who's going to stick around and work for a leader like that? By and large, that's going to be people who have very few other options. If they don't think they can go somewhere else and find work of comparable pay, and they need to have the money, they can't afford to leave. But the most capable, most competent people who know they could go somewhere else, who know they could work somewhere else, they will leave because they have no reason to put up with that kind of behavior in a leader. So what you end up with when you do not have a good, solid, strong leader, a 4P360 leader, you create that 78% of people at least wanting to leave the job if they have options. Now think about what that means. The top 20% of your employees always have options. The bottom 20% of your employees probably don't have options. You end up keeping the worst while blowing out the best. Not what you want to be doing. 6 people 6 people. The average leader, now think about this for a second. This isn't the follower. This isn't the subordinate. This isn't a junior team member. The average leader, someone high up, someone who has subordinates, someone who is leading people. Maybe a handful, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe a whole division, maybe just a shift. But the average leader will leave a position because of a problem with 6 people. 6 people. It doesn't take long for a leader to run afoul of 6 people. Now think about this for a second. You can be in upper management, and you've got some good quality leaders somewhere down in your organization, maybe leading an individual shift, maybe leading a division, maybe leading a department. And with these people, you expect them to kind of maintain control of things, but if they don't have a system to do that, in particular, if they do not have their people trained in 4P360 leadership to be powerful, to be practical, to be principled, and to be positive, that leader could start having personality conflicts with people on their team. Now, 78% of people will leave if they have a problem with leadership. But some leaders will leave if they keep running into problems with the people. They get tired of trying to manage in an organization where they keep coming under fire, even if it's from their own subordinates. Now, they may have some ability to fire those people or at least move them out of the departments depending upon what the contracts say and who has the hiring and firing authority. They may have the power to reprimand them, but that very often still counts as one of the 6. And if they're having any challenges across, if they're having any challenges up, when it hits about 6 people, even the ones in charge get sick of it and they want to move on. They may or they may not. There may be someplace for them to go, there may not be someplace to go. But there seems to be something, even among your leaders, if they start to have a problem with about 6 people, they want out. But if the team is trained in 4P360 leadership, if the team is trained to be those kind of people that would make a supervisor look good, if the team is trained to be able to lead across, if the leader's experience, no matter how challenging, is nonetheless somewhat positive, they're not having a problem with people, they have people helping with problems, then they'll stay. The best leaders and the most capable and competent leaders who are best able to solve problems, if the people are helping them solve the problems, those leaders stay. If they need to come in and solve problems and they have a war with the people, and about 6 people having a problem, they tend to leave, or at least they want to leave. That's the leaders. The followers will leave over the leadership. All it takes is one leader going straight up from the followers, and a good, quality, capable, competent knowledge worker whose expertise you may need, the best of the best, will leave because of a problem straight up the line. But even the people up the line will leave if they have a problem with 6 people down and or across. When the followers are trained in 4P360 leadership, it sets the tone for all interaction. If there's a problem and there's a simple pause, because there is a system, we are a 4P360 company. So please, if you have a problem, that's fine. But present the problem in the 4P360 manner. First off, your presentation needs to be powerful. I need to know exactly what it is. If you show up and there's nothing I can do about it at the end of the conversation because I don't have the information I need, that's not a powerful presentation. If you show up and you tell me, yeah, there's some kind of thing going on somewhere, and you need to do something about it, that doesn't give me anything I can take action on. Tell me the who's, the what's, the where's, the when's, the exactly what you think needs to be done, and that's more powerful. It has to be practical. That means there has to be very little in the way of like collateral damage. Like, well, you just need to fire all those people. Well, you can't be doing that. That's not practical. So you need to give me a powerful presentation. You need to give me practical solutions. It needs to be principled that if this is the way we make this decision, that we could take that same decision-making process and make other decisions the same way. That's principle. And it needs to be positive. Tell me what we're trying to create. What is it going to look like when we're done? Let's build relationship and build connection as we do this. The basic 4-pillar filter. Let's do this in the way that as you and I are interacting here, if the roles were reversed, you would think this would probably be the most pleasant connecting way we could do this. If we were doing this across instead of up and down, if we were doing this at a diagonal, if you were just doing this with yourself, this is the way you would want this done. Applying the 7-direction check. And when the followers are trained in this method, the 4P360 leadership, when there's a system, a clear, simple system to be a check, to be the filter, in addition to anything in the toolbox that they've been trained in, just having the system with or without the tools helps transform leadership. Helps create the kind of followers that make you look good. Helps create the kind of followers that will never be leaving for just personal reasons as code for I don't like my leaders. Having leaders that won't be leaving because of a problem with 6 people, because the only people that will need to be fired are those who refuse to follow the 4P360 system because they don't want to be powerful, they don't want to be practical, they don't want to be principled, they don't want to do the 7-direction check-in for heaven's sake, they don't want to have to be positive about it. Well, those aren't people you want on your team anyway. The 4P360 system naturally weeds out the worst because they won't want to do it. It keeps the best because it'll create an environment that they love. And for all the people in the middle where the real challenge is, no one ever taught them. No one ever simplified it. No one ever distilled it down to something they can understand and put in action. And the 4P360 system does that. It sets the tone through an empowering, solution-focused, thoughtful, positive environment because it is driven by an actual system. And how many great team members would ever quit if they know they're being trained for leadership? Really trained in actual leadership, not pretend leadership, not something where you just stick a label on it but it's really just regular job training. Actually trained in leadership with all relationships, including their relationship with themselves. Would that make a difference keeping the best of the best in your organization? Of course it would. 4P360 stands for 4-pillar 360-degree leadership. The 4 pillars, as mentioned already, are number 1, powerful, number 2, practical, number 3, I'm at 3 now, principled, and number 4, positive. The core 360-degree portion of the leadership is, of course, leading down conventional leadership, leading across, being an influence and example to your peers, and leading up, being the sort of team member that helps make the boss's job easier and makes the boss look good. The bonus directions are leading diagonal down. Diagonal down is the direct reports of a peer or the peers of your direct reports. And leading diagonal up, and that is the leader of your peers or the peer of your leader. And the 00 feature in 4P360 leadership. The 00 feature is 01 self-leadership and 02 reverse leadership. So if you have an entry-level position, that first client I talked about that makes her boss look good, she has 0 subordinates. So she has no down to lead. Now she could conceivably lead diagonal down because some people who are about the level of her peers may have an assistant or someone who answers to them. She does it from the nature of her work. But all of the directions apply to her except for the down, and possibly the down diagonal. So of the 7 directions, 5 of the 7 apply to her. She is trained in leadership. And the person she leads most often is her boss. But here's something else sometimes people forget. She also has interaction with the vendors. She handles contracts. And she is the leader of the vendors. She is an influence with them in a way that builds relationship. So while many people in her position historically have had an antagonistic relationship with these people, that all they do is they look over the paperwork, they get to a place, there's a problem here, kick it back, here's a problem, fix it. And then they fix it and send it back. You go, okay, let me continue reading down. So 1, 2, 3, okay, I see you fix the problem. 4, 5, 6. Here's another problem. Kick it back. Fix the problem. And what she would do is she'd actually check the whole document first. Say, okay, we have a problem at 3, 6, 9, Okay, there seems to be a pattern here. Okay, 3, 6, 9. Okay, oh, there's a problem down here with the number 11. At least we broke the pattern. And would give them where all the problems are, so they can fix everything simultaneously. And then when she took note that there were consistent problems and all the vendors were being told is, problem fix it. So this is, okay, everyone's having the same kind of problem, so let me put together a guide sheet so that not only can they fix the problem, but they'll understand what the problem is, so I don't have to keep looking at the same problems again and again, and they don't have to keep having their project delayed because it gets kicked back for the same reasons again and again that no one has explained to them. They just tell them, nope, not good enough, we need to know this, this, and this, and this, and that. And they don't know, well, how does that work? Well, there was actually a principle behind it about why they needed the material, and this was the first person in that position to put together a guide sheet to tell the vendors. So she's applying 4P360 leadership with the vendors. She's building positive relationships with the people coming and doing work for her organization. They like her because she helps them actually solve things. Instead of just saying, yeah, problem, fix it. Get back to me when you're done. Oh, found another problem here, fix it. Get back to me when you're done. And projects would be delayed for months under some of the previous people in her position. She facilitates them getting done because she knows the reason we're dealing with these people is we want done what they're doing for us. And the reason they're coming to us is they want to do what they're doing for us so they can get paid. We have the money, we want it done. They want to get it done so they can get the money. Why is whoever was in my position before trying to just get in the way of all of that instead of helping it get done? So that's what she's doing. Powerful, practical, principle, positive. Leading in 5 of the 7 directions with 0 direct reports, but she's also leading out to the vendors. And sometimes you have people who will lead out to your customers or your clients. And they need to be leaders. They need to be powerful. They need to be practical. They need to be principled. They need to be positive. And the 4P360 system will help your team do that from the bottom to the top. And people like being trained in leadership if it's genuine leadership. And you are training them in genuine leadership with a 4P360 system. This is Scott Conway, PhD, JD with 4P360.com. Thank you very much.